This is Mike Writing with Log My Calls. I'm on the marketing team here at Log My Calls. We're super excited about this webinar that we've got today. Welcome to How to Track All of Your Marketing Results with Phil Frost from Main Street ROI. We're excited to have Phil with us. He's done a couple other webinars with us before, and he always presents really, really great information. Phil is one of the co-founders, managing partners of Main Street ROI. Main Street ROI works with businesses to help them market better, save money, get more customers. They've been featured in a lot of top magazines like Forbes, VentureBeat, Fox Business, KillerStartups, and Business Insider. Phil's a great guy. He runs marathons in Huarache sandals, which I would love to hear more about that. He played college football at Dartmouth, and he's married with a one-year-old daughter. They live in New York. So we're really excited to hear what Phil's got to say for us here. Feel free to ask questions at any time. We will have a question and answer period at the end. I'll be monitoring the questions, and if there's a question that's critical to the webinar at the point, we'll stop Phil and ask him at that point. But traditionally what we do with our webinars is wait till the very end. We'll also have a brief poll for you at the end of the webinar, so stay tuned for that as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Phil. Phil, we're glad to have you, and the time is yours.
All right, great. I appreciate that, Mike. Thanks for having me. Thanks for that warm introduction. And I'll just dive right in here, get the housekeeping out of the way. So as Mike said, if you're familiar with GoToWebinar, there's a Q&A section right at the upper right-hand corner, and you can just type your questions in there. If there's anything urgent, I'm sure Mike will stop me. I can address that as we go. Otherwise, we'll get to the Q&A at the end. And then I always recommend everyone turn off distractions, turn off your cell phone. It's best if you close out all your windows, all your social media profiles. I'm going to try to keep this as close to 60 minutes as possible, and then you can get back to your Thursday. All right, so here's an overview of what we're going to cover. So first I'll touch on why tracking is so critical to your success with marketing. I'm sure everyone knows that it is, but we'll reiterate that. We'll talk about the 4 tools to calculate return on investment. That's what this is all about. And then, as we've mentioned, we'll open up to Q&A at the end. And for anyone, I always get this question, Mike, is this being recorded? So I'll just answer that right now, that it should be recording, but if not, I'm sure Mike will click record right now.
Yeah, we're recording, and this will be uploaded to our website. It will also be emailed to you afterward.
Okay, perfect. All right. So here's a quick intro. In addition to what Mike said, I am the founder of Main Street ROI. And as Mike said, we provide online marketing services. We provide consulting and training to small business owners to improve their marketing results. And since 2010, we've now helped over 2,000 businesses with their online marketing. And my thought leadership in this industry has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex, and Mashable, as well as other top media. There's a nice mugshot of me, and then here is my beautiful wife and one-year-old daughter, Violet, who is unfortunately homesick with a little bit of a bug, but I think she'll be better tomorrow. All right, so do a quick gauge on the audience here, make sure everyone is awake, and if you are tracking any of these, please type it into the Q&A window. So if you're actually honestly tracking your SEO or your PPC or your social media, if you're doing any type of print advertising, direct mail, TV, or radio, or really any type of marketing, if you can honestly say you're tracking it, type that into the Q&A window. What this webinar is going to be about is I'm going to show you exactly how you can track all of this, and you can track all this activity if you're sending traffic to your website, we can actually use Google Analytics to track a lot of your offline marketing. So a lot of businesses are not aware of that, so we're going to walk through exactly how to do that. And most importantly, you need to be able to answer these 4 questions. So again, how many leads per month are you generating per marketing campaign? So if you're running TV and you're running pay-per-click advertising, maybe through Google AdWords, can you actually determine how many leads are coming in from each of those campaigns without just guesstimating, which a lot of businesses do? And then can you actually pinpoint and say how many sales were generated from each campaign? Can you calculate the return on investment? And then also, can you identify where you can make the biggest improvement in your marketing campaign? So in any marketing campaign, you're going to have a result. Maybe it's a positive return on investment. Maybe it's negative. You ultimately need to be able to figure out where are you going to get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of making tweaks to that campaign to improve it. And if you can't answer those questions, we're going to answer those on this webinar. All right, so why is tracking so critical? So first, you're going to identify what's working, and then you're going to take that information and use it to allocate your marketing budget so that you're reinvesting in what's working, so that you obviously grow your leads and sales, grow your business, but also identifying what's not working. And I'll tell you a quick story about this. So I started working with a client, and I was managing her Google AdWords campaign. And we knew that overall the AdWords account was profitable, but there was no tracking in place. So what we did, the very first step with any campaign that I manage, we put in proper tracking so that we can start evaluating each campaign and see, what is the real return from that campaign, and should we really be allocating the budget the way it currently is. So we put some tracking in place, and what we found was one campaign in the account was actually losing $1,600 a month. So consistently, that campaign was generating a negative return on investment, but overall, there were other campaigns that were making up for that, and overall it was profitable. So things looked good from the surface. Once we installed tracking, we saw that this client was in fact wasting money every month by reinvesting in a campaign that was just losing money. So again, what we did was obviously pause that campaign, take that budget that was just wasting money, and put that into the campaigns that were working, and we actually, just by reallocating the budget, increased profitability by 50% in that one account. So clearly, tracking and understanding what's working, what's not working can have a huge impact on not only Google AdWords, but really any of your marketing campaigns. And finally, I touched on this before, by tracking, only by tracking, will you be able to figure out which areas in your marketing and in your sales funnel are things breaking down. And once you figure out what's breaking down, that's when you can actually go in and fix it, because a campaign might not be profitable, but you don't know, is that at the ad level, is the message wrong? Is it the conversion on the page, or are people not clicking the add to cart button? Or maybe they're all getting to the to the order form, but they're not actually finalizing that sale if you're an e-commerce website. And that's where you need to focus. And if you fix that one critical component, then overall that could swing the pendulum in your favor. All right, so here's what the main topic of the webinar is: the 4 tools to track return on investment. So the first tool we're going to talk about is website analytics, and the goal here is to figure out the source of all of your traffic. So the source of your website traffic, and that's really the key to tracking, and I'll talk about this throughout the webinar. You have to have a system in place and proper tracking to find the source of all of your leads and all of your sales, and that way you can track all of your revenue back to the marketing campaign that drove that lead and sale. So the goal here, if we work backwards, it all starts at the website level, figuring out the source of all of your traffic, and then we'll talk about the source of maybe phone calls, the leads, proposals, and then ultimately that sale. But it all starts with the website. I just took a screenshot here of an analytics account, and the tool that I use and I recommend if you're just getting started, definitely go sign up for Google Analytics. It's completely free, and it's very easy to get installed on your site. It's literally a copy and paste job for your webmaster. And once you get that installed, you'll be able to run a report and look at this data that you see on your screen here, and you can see Google Analytics automatically categorizes your traffic. So you can see organic search traffic, so that's your SEO traffic, referral traffic, that could be some of your partners that are referring you business, that could be your maybe a press release that you're running and that's referring traffic. You'll also see social, so that's your social media. If you're doing any kind of social media marketing, Google automatically tracks that. And then email, Google can automatically track email, but there are some limitations to Google Analytics and what it will track. It does not know, for example, if the traffic came from a TV ad or a radio ad or a print ad. And I mentioned before, I promised that I'd show you how to track that, and you actually need to take this a step further to get that data in your account, but it is very simple to set up, and I'm going to walk through that. So here's how to track what I'm calling your offline campaigns. Because as I mentioned before, tracking your online campaigns, Google Analytics does a really good job of that, and it should get tracked automatically. So now I'm going to talk about tracking offline campaigns, which by default Google Analytics does not know if traffic is coming from an offline source. But what you can use is a tool called the URL Builder. I'm going to give you a quick demo of that in a second. But what we're going to do is basically define a traffic source by using this URL Builder tool, and then anyone that goes to the link that we're going to create, Google Analytics will automatically say, okay, that was from the radio ad or that was from the print ad. So I'm just going to jump over to the URL Builder, and this is what it looks like. And I'll show you to get to it. I have a toolbar here that's just going to do a Google search here. I'm going to search for URL Builder, and it's literally the first result here. So it's super easy to find. Just go to Google, type in URL Builder. It's the first result. I don't know why they don't make this easier to find, but that's the crazy URL to get to it. And what you're going to do is, again, we're going to define the source, and this is the campaign source. So for every marketing campaign, I would recommend creating a landing page, and I'm just going to use this example here. So let's just say this is your website here, and it's going to this download.html page. That's what your landing page is. That's the page that you're going to sell them on your product or service. If you're a dentist, that's going to talk about your dental practice and have a form to schedule an appointment. If you're an e-commerce business and you're selling a product, that's going to be the specific product page that explains the benefits of that product, has an add to cart button right there. They can buy from that page. That's your landing page that you're promoting. Again, we're talking about promoting this in an offline media like TV or radio or print, but this is also going to work for online as well. So you could define this for an email campaign, for example, and this will all get tracked in analytics and tracked to a specific source. So Google tells you, here are some examples. So if this traffic was coming from city search, you would use city search. This might be an email newsletter, but I'll just say it's from radio ad 1 here. Let's just say you're doing a couple different radio ads. Medium might be radio. You can skip these. These actually aren't mandatory. And then you can just do special promotion here. Could be the name of the campaign. So whatever, use something that you'll be able to identify this in your Google Analytics reports and easily see, okay, this was from the special promotion February 2014. Now you just click submit, and this gives you the URL that people now need to use, and when you go to that URL, it will track everything in Google Analytics, and you'll see that it came from the radio ad. You'll see that it was from this special promotion February 2014. Now I know you're looking at that and you're thinking, no one is ever going to go to this URL. If this was an email campaign, you could easily hide this with what's called anchor text and just link to it in an HTML email, and that's what a lot of people do. But if you're running a TV ad, you're not going to show this crazy URL. So let's talk about how to fix that problem. And we're going to use what's called a vanity domain. Now I'll use an example here. We have a vanity domain, so we purchased mainstreetmarketingtips.com. And if you go to Main Street Marketing Tips, let me just go there right now to show you. If you go to mainstreetmarketingtips.com, you get automatically forwarded to mainstreetroi.com, Main Street Marketing Tips, and then you can see this is the source, mainstreetmarketingtips.com. The medium is email because we use this in our email campaigns, and this is the campaign is a new email newsletter sign-up campaign that we have. So what's happening here is we created a vanity domain called mainstreetmarketingtips.com, and it automatically forwards to that URL that we created before that has the tracking code for Google Analytics. And this is really, as I said here, it's perfect for any type of print advertising, any kind of direct mail that you're sending. So rather than us, in our example, when we send direct mail, we're not going to say sign up at mainstreetroi.com/newsletter.html. We're just going to say sign up at mainstreetmarketingtips.com. And on that, we would then code that tracking to say that that was for that particular direct mail piece. And now we have a way to measure all of the traffic from that particular campaign. So that's how vanity domain tracking works, and that's really the critical component to being able to track the source of all of your traffic. Again, this works for online. You can define online campaigns, in which case a lot of times you don't even need a vanity domain. You would just link and use that hyperlink But if you're doing offline campaigns, you're going to want to use a vanity domain just because it's going to be so much cleaner and more people are likely to go to mainstreetmarketingtips.com than some really long tracking URL.
Hey, Phil.
Yes.
This is Mike. Hey, we've got a question real quick. Where do you find or where do you get vanity domains?
That's a great question, and you would just go to any type of domain registrar, like GoDaddy.com is one that I use a lot. Domains typically cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $10, $15. I wouldn't don't go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a vanity domain. Just use some different variations to find one that's available, and then just grab that. Once you own it, then in any domain registrar you can set up what's called domain forwarding, and this is super easy to do. I know it sounds complicated, but if you use GoDaddy, just contact their support and they'll send you step-by-step directions, or you could tell a webmaster to do this. It should literally take them 5 minutes to set up a domain forward, and it's just copying and pasting. So I'll just go back to, so again, it all starts with this URL builder. Once you get the URL, you're literally going to copy this. So copy right there, and then you're going to go to your domain registrar like GoDaddy.com, and you would paste that right into the domain forward. It's a field, so you don't even have to buy hosting. That's the other great thing about this. It's a domain that the purpose of that domain is just to forward traffic to a tracking URL, and that way you can track all of that traffic back to that particular campaign.
So do you recommend different unique vanity domains for each campaign?
Yeah, so what I would start out with, if you're currently using, let's say, direct mail and print ads, and you're doing a lot of different campaigns, that could get a little bit costly. So to start, I would just get a vanity domain for your print ads and a vanity domain for your direct mail, and that way you're at least going to see how much traffic is coming from your direct mail, how much traffic is coming from your print, and then have a much better idea of the effectiveness of those campaigns.
What about using a bitlink, a URL shortener?
You could do that as well. That would be a free solution. And for anyone that's not familiar with that, I'll show you Google's version, goo.gl. You'll see I've got a lot of them in there, but what you can do, I'll show this really quickly. This would be a version of a short URL. The problem with it is it's just a bit ugly, so I wouldn't, and no one's going to remember that if you're doing a TV or a radio ad. It wouldn't really work for that, but for a direct mail, that could work if you want to do a free version of a vanity domain.
Perfect. Thanks for answering those questions on the spot.
Yep. All right. So that's the first tool. It's critical. You have to know the source of the traffic, otherwise everything will just look like it's coming in direct, and you can't parse out, how much of that direct traffic is from TV, print, or radio. So we solved that problem. Now we need to solve the problem of phone calls. So that's obviously important. If you are getting phone calls and a lot of your business is driven through phone calls rather than an e-commerce business, then you absolutely need to know the source of those phone calls, or else you're going to have no idea how to measure those campaigns. So again, what's driving your phone calls? The easiest way to do this is to just match up unique phone numbers for each of your campaigns, similar to creating a vanity domain. So if you have, again, a direct mail campaign, an online advertising campaign, and a print mail campaign, I I would recommend getting 3 different phone numbers to start, and that will at least show you how many phone calls are coming from online ads, how many from print, and how much from direct mail. And obviously combined with the website source, you'll be able to see how much traffic you're getting and how many phone calls you're getting. Now the second point here is if you're not familiar with a voice whisper, that's just when you pick up the phone, you can actually program a lot of phone tracking software to whisper to the person who answers the phone to say, for example, this call is from direct mail. So that would be one solution, rather than having a different phone for every phone line, which could get a little crazy. So you can redirect all of your different tracking numbers to the same phone line, but then have some kind of phone whisper that tells the person answering the phone, hey, this is from the XYZ campaign, and you might even have a different script that salesperson reads based on the source of traffic. And the final step, if you're going to track phone calls, is you need to document the call. So a lot of phone tracking software will do this for you, and then in addition to that, I would recommend having a method to get this data into a CRM system. If you're not familiar with CRM, that's a customer relationship management system, and that's just a fancy phrase to tell you that you have a way to track your all of your leads and your sales in some kind of a database, and that could be as simple as a notepad. So a pen and a notepad, you could be keeping track of all of your leads that come in from direct mail, and then check off the ones that turn into sales. You could use an Excel spreadsheet, or you can get into more complex tools like Salesforce, Act, and we use Infusionsoft here. And Mike, does LogMyCalls have a voice whisper, or maybe you could touch on maybe your guys' solution to seeing where the phone call is coming from?
Sure. Yeah, we do have a voice. We call it whisper message, and the way it works with LogMyCalls is you program in when you set up a new, we call it a tracking number. When you set up this new unique phone number for a campaign, let's say it's your Facebook campaign, you've got a phone number on there, or your direct mail campaign, you've got a phone number on there. You would just add in to your phone tracking software, in this case LogMyCalls, you would add into that section of the setup section what the voice whisper would say when the call is placed. So if you are on the other end of the line, if you're at your store, you pick up the phone, the first thing you're going to hear is call from Facebook campaign, or call from direct mail campaign, or whatever it is that you put in there. And that way you immediately know, before you talk to the person, where they are calling from.
Okay, great. So yeah, that's critical for tracking, and then that's going to be critical for being able to segment any type of sales scripts that you might be using, or customer service scripts based on where that person's calling from.
Exactly, and you can even automate with certain call tracking platforms. You could automate your CRM. If you've got a sales script within your CRM or some sort of inside sales or other software, you could automate that any time. Just like you automate this documenting in a CRM, you would automate a sales script to populate when that phone call comes through. If your sales reps are sitting at a desk at a computer or something like that, then that's something that you can automate. It's pretty cool stuff.
Okay, cool. Let me get back into here. All right, and then so that's kind of the basic phone tracking 101, matching a phone number, a unique phone number, to a particular campaign. Now, it gets a little bit more advanced when you start getting into what's called dynamic number insertion, or DNI. And what this is basically changing the phone number on your website based on that source of traffic. So if you have a print campaign and you have a particular phone number, and then you're also saying to go to your website, what can happen is some people are going to call, and you're going to track that because it's a unique phone number. But then those people that go to your website, now it looks like they might call from your website from the main number, and you've basically lost all of your tracking, and you don't know now where that traffic came from. So the solution to that problem is to use DNI, or dynamic number insertion. So the way this works is you're going to have let's say a print ad that says to go to, I'll use our example, mainstreetmarketingtips.com to go sign up for our newsletter. They go to that website. Now the code on the website knows that it's coming from the print ad because we used a vanity domain with the tracking URL, and you can actually change the phone number on your website on the fly automatically to show the correct phone number that corresponds to that particular print ad. So that's another really cool technology that will ensure that you're tracking your phone calls accurately. And I just had a tip there that, again, you can use this vanity domain concept to trigger your dynamic number insertion. And again, it's perfect for all of your marketing campaigns. You can do this for online marketing as well. So let's say you're doing a Google AdWords campaign and your ads are sending traffic to your website, and you can dynamically change the phone number to be a, quote, AdWords phone number that then would tell the person answering the phone that, hey, this is a call from Google AdWords. Or, as Mike said, you might have Facebook ads that are pointing to a page that then has a phone number that would dynamically change to be that Facebook phone number, and it would say, hey, this is a call from Facebook. And now the sales rep would document that, and now you know with certainty that that call came in from the Facebook ad. It did not come in from the print ad. Okay, so we've got the source of traffic now of all your marketing. We've got the source of all of your phone calls. The next step, we have to track the lead to the sale. So a lot of businesses are not going to be strictly e-commerce, so you're going to get the lead probably by phone, or even they might be doing a web form, like a contact form. So they're going to come in as leads, but now you need to track those leads to sales, and that's what I'm calling sales funnel tracking, or you may have heard of CRM tracking. And what you're going to use, taking a step back, traffic and phone calls obviously do not equal sales. So we've tracked the source of traffic, we've tracked the phone calls, but that's not enough because those are not sales. That's not money in the bank. You need to convert that traffic, convert those calls into sales, and that's a critical step, obviously, in this process. And if all we're doing is tracking the traffic, and all we're doing is tracking the calls, we don't really have the full picture. So we need to track the entire sales funnel here. And again, the examples, you could do this in an Excel file. Maybe you're using pen and paper, or tools like Salesforce and Infusionsoft and Act will do this as well. And you're basically you need a way to label the leads. And I'll use the same example. Let's say this is a lead from your print ad, and we have another lead from the Facebook ad. You need to track that all the way to the sale, so that your customer data now has a source to it. So now you have all of your sales from the Facebook ad, and you have all your sales from the print ad. That's the ultimate goal. So we're tracking we're tracking that source of the leads and the sales. And this is just a quick example of a lead generation funnel. So if you're generating leads from Google AdWords, at the top here is the source is the Google AdWords ad. And they click on that ad, they go to a landing page that has a quote request form. So they fill out that quote request form, and then a salesperson calls them back. So now you have that sales call, and then there might be multiple sales calls, and then eventually you have a closed deal. And for your business, this sales cycle might be a day. In some businesses, this might be 6 months. It doesn't matter. You need to be able to track it all the way through and then match it back to that first source, which was when they clicked on that AdWords ad, and match that using, again, the lead source. So we got that from Google Analytics. Then that data was passed to the CRM system. So when they filled out that quote request, that would then tell the salesperson, hey, this was a AdWords ad lead, and then that salesperson would track that lead in the CRM system or track it in an Excel file, and then ultimately when that deal closes, you have that data that says this deal came in from Google AdWords, and you can match that and say how much money was generated from Google AdWords, compare that to how much money you spent in Google AdWords, and if everything works out right, you've made more money than you've spent. And this is a e-commerce sales funnel. The nice thing about e-commerce is this is going to get tracked back automatically in Google Analytics, and that for anyone listening who has an e-commerce website, I highly recommend you get e-commerce analytics set up as soon as possible. So that's it's a Google Analytics, I'll call it an extension, I guess. It requires a little bit of coding, so you'll need to get a webmaster to code that up for you. And what it does is it sends all of the customer information back to Google Analytics automatically. And this is really only for e-commerce websites, unfortunately, but it does do this automatically. It's really powerful. What you'll see is the source comes in from Google AdWords. They come to a landing page. They're going to complete the order. So they're going to click on the Add to Cart button, complete the order form page. Then they'll make it to the order form confirmation page, and that page has what's called e-commerce analytics code on it. That gets sent automatically to Google Analytics, and it matches everything within the reporting of Google Analytics. So it's really cool if you're running an e-commerce site. Everything is much easier than brick and mortar or a company that drives a lot of sales with phone calls. So again, if you have e-commerce, I recommend you take a look at setting up e-commerce analytics. Okay, so we've got the source of the traffic, source of all of your calls, and we're tracking those leads all the way through to the sale. And the final tool is what I'm calling KPI reporting. And we need to have a system in the business to report on KPIs or key performance indicators, and that's going to show us how to improve the return on investment. Every business is going to have KPIs, and depends on the type of business that you're running. And you can also have campaign-specific KPIs. So a print campaign is going to have different KPIs than a Google AdWords campaign, for example. But I'll go through a couple examples here. The first step to set this up is to document your sales funnel. I'll show you some examples here. So I recommend getting out a pen and paper to do this. Don't try to do this on your computer. It's much easier to draw it out on a blank piece of paper. And you're basically going to start with the person coming to your website. So if you take a step back, there should be actually, somebody who sees your ad or clicks on an AdWords ad. That would be actually the first step there. And then they come to your website, and then they complete the contact form, and then they might get a call from a salesperson with a proposal, and then ultimately a sale. Or e-commerce here would be click on an ad, come to a landing page, and then complete the order on the order form. So what we're doing here is just mapping out kind of the process flow of a customer, and the whole goal here is to be able to measure the conversion rates at each critical point in that sales funnel. There's going to be a conversion rate from ad to visitor to a website visitor. It's going to be a conversion rate from visitor to contact form submission, and then a conversion rate from that to a proposal, and then from that to ultimately a sale. And when you actually map this out, it's at first pretty shocking. You'll be surprised at what the different conversion rates really are, especially if right now you're just basically looking at the overall conversion rate. You might have a serious problem from contact form to proposal, or from proposal to sale. And it's not obvious if you're just looking at the overall conversion rate. You really need to break that down into the mini steps that the prospect is really going through. And ultimately what we're trying to do here is measure the return on investment. So we're going to measure the different conversion rates, and then also since we're tracking all the way through to the sale, we can measure the return on investment. And here are some lead generation KPIs that I would recommend you're tracking the traffic per source. So don't just look at your overall website traffic. You want to dig into the source of that traffic. So is it coming from how much traffic did you get from the direct mail campaign? How much traffic from Google AdWords? How much from Facebook, etc. And everything could really end with per source. So now we're looking at the lead conversion rate per source. And the leads are going to be a combination of the web form quote requests. Most likely you're going to have some kind of form on your site. You want to include those. You'll also want to include all the phone calls. Then you'll have sales conversion rate per source. You'll have the revenue per sale per source. And then finally, I also recommend taking this a step further. So we're just talking about that initial transaction. If your business has the ability for repeat purchases, you also want to be tracking any type of repeat purchases per source, because that will vary quite a bit. There is, quote, low quality sources of customers where you'll find, certain types of traffic are going to generate varying degrees of quality in terms of customers. So some might be driving customers that are actually worth more because they're doing more repeat purchases, and you might drive some types of traffic that really just come in. Maybe they saw a discounted offer, they buy once, and then they're gone. And then by tracking repeat purchases per source, that allows you to actually see, was it really worth the investment? Otherwise, you might assume that a campaign worked really well. It drove 100 customers, but in reality, the customer value was much lower than what you typically get from another campaign. All right, quickly here I'll go through the e-commerce KPIs, very similar here. Want to definitely look at traffic per source. The add to cart conversion rate is critical, and that's per source again. Look at that order form conversion rate per source, revenue per sale per source, and again, repeat purchases per source. So let's recap. We talked about tracking the source of the website traffic, and that the tool I'm recommending is Google Analytics. If you're not yet set up, you can just Google Analytics, get set up. Shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes, and then you'll shoot the code over to your webmaster. He'll get that installed, and you'll be off and running. It's really easy to get set up. We also talked about vanity domains, and that's to track any type of offline traffic, and that's a combination of a vanity domain plus the URL builder tracking code. We also talked about the tracking the source of your phone calls, and Mike explained a little bit more detail into how you can give each of your phone calls a campaign ID, or sorry, each of your phone numbers a campaign name or ID, and then when anyone calls that number, it would actually tell the person answering, hey, this is a phone call from your print ad, or this is a phone call from Google AdWords ads. Then you're going to take that information and make sure that your leads are matched up with a source. So all of the leads that you have coming into your business should have a source. They should either be coming from a print ad, a Facebook campaign, an AdWords campaign, and that way you're going to track that all the way through the sales funnel to the sale, and then be able to calculate the return on investment. And then we also talked about measuring KPIs, and that's going to allow you to find opportunities to improve the campaign that otherwise you would miss if all you're looking at is the overall conversion rate of a campaign. So a campaign might be not profitable for you right now, but if you actually map out the sales funnel and put some numbers to each of those different conversion areas, you might not be too far away from making that unprofitable campaign profitable for you by just making some minor tweaks along that sales funnel. All right, and for anyone online that's looking for help with getting set up with Google Analytics, we can actually help you from anyone that's not yet installed with Google Analytics. We can go out and create an account, get that installed and configured properly. Also, if you have it installed but you know you don't have it configured properly and you don't know how to run the reports, we can also help you as well. This is our contact information. You can call 646-470-3753, or you can email support@mainstreetroi.com, and we'll follow up with more information about how we can help you better track your marketing campaigns. Or we'll actually contact you, and that's if Mike can show this poll. Then you should see a poll on your screen where you can say, yes, please contact me, and we'll follow up with more information if you select yes. So Mike, are you still there? If you can't show the poll, then, or maybe I can show the poll
out. And I'm not sure if you'll see it, Phil, as a presenter, but the poll's been sent out.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I don't see anything. I didn't know what was going on there. But yeah, you can maybe leave it up for 5 more seconds, and then close that out, and then we can start the Q&A.
Sure. You know, why don't I start the Q&A while people are answering this poll? So one of the questions, is that all right with you, Phil?
Sure.
Okay. One of the questions was, doesn't this, I think you were talking about at the time about print ads and using vanity domains from print ads, and the question was, doesn't this assume that the print ad is trying to drive to a website? And I think you addressed this question by then talking about phone calls and how to track phone calls. And really, I guess I'll take a crack at this one. The issue is you need to decide what is your call to action? What are you trying to drive people to do with your campaign? And as Phil mentioned, if you're with print ads, you may be trying to do two things. Trying to drive website traffic, which you'd want to use a vanity campaign, a vanity URL. And if you're trying to drive phone calls, you definitely want to use phone call tracking. Anything you want to add to that, Phil?
Yeah, I generally recommend, so people are going to want to respond how they want to respond. You can't really force, some people like to call, that's what they're going to do. They don't even have the internet access like my father. If you just show a URL in the ad to my dad, he's not going to respond because he doesn't really use the computer. So what I would recommend is showing the phone number to respond, as well as a URL for people who are a little bit more web savvy. And then if you have some kind of coupon, you might even want to have a coupon that they cut out and actually bring to the store. And obviously a coupon would have a tracking code on it, and that would allow you to track that as well. So what I would recommend is you have your different ways that your prospect could respond, and that's you don't want to try to force them one way or the other. Really let them decide whatever's best for them if they want to call or go to your website. And yeah, we touched hopefully on, hopefully it makes sense now that you can track both that phone call if that's how the person wants to respond, or if they want to go to your website, you can also track that as well.
Tell us a little bit more. We had a few questions about how do you track, and you touched on this just a second ago, how do you track in-store visits?
Yes, so if you can, coupon codes are going to be a great way to match those up to campaigns. If they're coming in for, I'm sure you've seen ads that say, just mention XYZ promotion and we'll give you this discount. So if they mention that in the store, you can match that back. Another interesting way to test is to have them ask for a particular sales rep, and you could have them ask for Lucy, and if they come in asking for Lucy, that came from the particular campaign. The best way where it's going to be no questions asked, it definitely came from that campaign, would be some kind of coupon that they could bring in.
Yeah, that would work great, I think. All right, shifting gears a little bit, I'm going to, after this next question, I'm going to take down the poll, so if you wanted to vote on this poll, please do that now, and then I'll get that out of the way. We had somebody ask about WordPress analytics. You've mentioned Google Analytics. Do you have an opinion on WordPress analytics?
I have not dug into WordPress analytics. I'll need to look into that more to answer that question, but I generally like and use Google Analytics. It's pretty powerful. It's much more powerful than most people think it is, and most people really just skim the surface with that tool. If you get your hands dirty, it can tell you a lot about not only source of traffic, but frequency of people actually coming back to your website. One of the most powerful things that we didn't really touch on is actually conversion tracking in Google Analytics, and making sure that's set up properly so that you see how many people completed a form, how many people made an e-commerce purchase on your site, and that gets tracked back to the source. So without knowing too much about WordPress tracking, obviously that's only going to be relevant for people using WordPress. For everyone else, definitely recommend Google Analytics, but I can't really speak to the WordPress tracking because I haven't used that tool.
Okay, sounds good. We had another question. What if you're a one-man office? And I think what she's getting at is how do I do all of this if I've got a small staff? And maybe what's the most critical? Where should I start?
I mean, that's tough without knowing exactly what you're doing, but a lot of this is more, it's upfront time for you, so you need to just get it set up, and then once it is set up, then it, it runs by itself in terms of Google Analytics automatically tracks that source. If you're using a phone call tracking service, they're automatically tracking those for you. Then it does come down to, somebody does need to track leads to sales, and there's really no way around that. That's going to be absolutely critical in any business. You need to be tracking that to have a understanding of what's even going on. So, yeah, I'd have to know, more information about what you're doing to give you a little bit more advice, but hopefully that answers your question in terms of, make sure you get the website tracking set up, the phone call tracking set up, and then some kind of system to document leads and sales. That would be the absolute minimum.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. We had a few more questions about Phone Whisper, and mostly it was where do you get Phone Whisper and how much does it cost? Many call tracking providers like Log My Calls provide Phone Whisper or Voice Whisper. It's a feature that you would, if you're shopping around for phone call tracking, it's just a feature you would want to ask for. And again, some people call it Whisper Message, some people call it Voice Whisper, Phone Whisper. Whisper is the key word there, and if you're shopping around for call tracking, they will know what you're talking about. So yeah, Log My Calls provides that. We'd be happy to tell you a little bit more about that. As far as domain analytics and tracking your websites, do you need Google Analytics for each? If you've got a regular domain and then a store domain, how do you track multiple domains within Google Analytics? That's
a great question, and a lot of times that gets a little bit screwed up in people's accounts. But if you want it all in one analytics profile, then you would just put the code that you copy and paste on your website on both domains, and then the traffic will get all tracked in that one Google Analytics account. If you want to track them separately, you would create what's called two profiles, and then you'd have two different codes that you'd have to copy and paste and just put, code A on website A, code B on website B, and then you would track them separately. It really depends what you're trying to do. If you're tracking them both within the same reporting, for example, you have your website and then maybe a shopping cart, then you'd want them both in the same reporting, and there is some extra. You basically configure it a little bit differently in the settings. It'll ask you a question. Do you only have one domain, or do you want to track across multiple subdomains? That might be the case for you, where you have a subdomain like shop.yourdomain.com. You just check that box, and then the code that you get is slightly different. You just want to make sure you're using that code.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. That's helpful. That was a question from Kate. So Kate, I'd recommend contacting Phil for more information. We've just got a couple minutes left to wrap up here. Kenneth, there will be, and everybody, there will be a replay of this webinar posted on the logmycalls.com/webinar-series. We'll send you a link via email either today or tomorrow morning early of the webinar. Jeff, thanks for your comment that there's a Google Analytics plugin available for WordPress. So if you're using WordPress, there is a Google Analytics plugin for that. And I'm sure Phil could tell you more about that and help you out. There's another question from Kim here. She's asking about Infusionsoft. So if you have Infusionsoft, would you still use Google Analytics, and to what capacity?
Yes, absolutely. So I think what she's referring to there is Infusionsoft has what's called Web Analytics, and it's pretty cool. It will integrate a lot of the information into Infusionsoft, which is it's a CRM system, and it does has a lot of other bells and whistles. But I would still use Google Analytics and use the URL builder. I don't believe there's any type of URL builder for Infusionsoft, but correct me if I'm wrong. In which case you wouldn't be able to track the offline traffic as accurately if all you were using was Infusionsoft.
Perfect. Thanks. One more question, or a couple more questions here as we wrap up. Chris wants to know if you have a recommendation for a preferred shopping cart website, shopping cart builder. Is there something that you like that you would recommend?
I mean, I use Infusionsoft, and I really like their platform. I know it can be a little bit pricey, but it's one of those kind of all-in-one systems where you've got your CRM, you have your shopping cart, you've got your affiliate or partnership tracking. It's a great tool, I think. Rather than having your shopping cart tool, you've got another tool for partnership referral tracking and another tool like Salesforce for CRM tracking, and then you have to try to integrate them all. Infusionsoft automatically integrates everything and allows you to track everything a little bit more accurately.
Great. Perfect. Sounds good. There's a few questions about Log My Calls and call tracking specifically. I'll get a hold of you privately. We can take that offline. Mainly it's about is call tracking reliable with the telephony platforms, and Log My Calls is built on a level 3 fiber backbone, so we're as reliable as any other phone provider. Phil, that's it for the questions. If you want to, we appreciate you being with us, and this has been great information.
All right, I appreciate you guys inviting me, and look forward to doing another one soon.
Okay, sounds good. I don't have a slide for this, but if anybody signs up as a result of this webinar, why don't you give us a call? I'll show you how our tracking numbers work. If you sign up for Log My Calls in February because of this webinar, I'm going to give you a unique tracking number to call. I'll just say it over the phone here. Give us a call at 855-889-3936. And so if you call that number, we'll know that that's a result of this webinar, and we'll be able to get you some perks for signing up for Log My Calls. And if you have any questions about tracking, we will contact you. Those that responded to the poll, Phil will get a hold of you, and we'd love to help you out. Again, thanks for attending a Log My Calls webinar. We have webinars every week. Go to logmycalls.com/webinar-series to sign up for our next one. And again, thanks to Phil Frost, Main Street ROI. We really appreciate it. It's been great information.
Thank you.
All right, have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.